Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video. If this is your first time stopping by, consider subscribing to the channel. And while you're at it, hit the like button. That would really help out the channel and I would truly appreciate it. So people in this country are in a lot of trouble financially. I'm going to walk you through an article that I read that was absolutely just mind-blowing. And you guys tell me what you think about what I'm about to read. Okay, so now this article says that nearly 30% of Americans are behind in debt payments in the largest metros. 30%. Now we're going to see what the context of that is a little later. It says that American households racked up a record $17.29 trillion with a T in debt last year, driven by mortgage, credit card, and student loan balances, according to the latest numbers from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Now, this ain't just somebody putting something out there now. This is just not some random news outlet. This is the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Okay? So not only are they a big part of the Federal Reserve, but they also have the data, the statistics, and the credentials to back it up, what they said. So they have real facts. It says now, this is fresh data that indicates an alarmingly high percentage of consumers that have began falling behind on their payments at the same time. A new study released by LendingTree found that 29.6% of residents in the nation's 100 largest metros were behind on at least one debt payment during the third quarter of 2023. 27.3% had serious delinquencies that were over 90 days past due or more. 27% past 90 days due or more. I did not stutter. More than a quarter, more than a quarter, 26.2% had debt in collections. More than 26.2% had debt in collections as of the third quarter of 2023. This is coming straight from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Okay? Listen to what they said. That's a huge number of people behind on their debt payments. LendingTree Chief Credit Analyst Matt Schultz said, late payments can damage your credit score, making things even tougher on you financially. Now, these reports are from people who are recognizing the awful financial situations that people in this country are in, and they're going further and further in debt. Now, we know that inflation was out of control, and we know that the Federal Reserve had to raise interest rates to start trying to tame that inflation and get it under control. And as interest rates were going up, people kept spending. And what did they do as they kept spending? They started to use up their what? Their pandemic savings. They spent that. And then after that was gone, what did they start doing? They started using their credit cards. And that caused them to increase their debt tremendously. And now people are struggling terribly. Now they're struggling in the worst way. Nearly 30% of Americans are behind. Now, the people that are struggling are your lower income families, your middle income families. They're the ones that's really catching the brunt of this struggling. But now the only people who are not struggling are your top 1% wealthy families that have the majority of the country's wealth. They're fine. In fact, they benefit quite a lot from all of the other families in both classes, both middle class and lower class, doing all the spending. So they're doing fine. But people have gotten to a point where they've ignored what is good decision making and good advice, and they have decided that they're not going to follow what is good practice when it comes to good behavioral mindsets when it comes to their money. They've ignored advice and they've just determined that they're going to spend. It is causing them to be in really bad straits and putting them in a mountain of debt. Now, that's the difference about what this channel is about. This channel is about helping people to change their behavior with money. Because when we change our behavior with money, we put ourselves in a better place or have a better opportunity to get out of consumer debt, right? So that means that we're getting out of things, or we're staying out of consumer debt, like credit card loans, student loans, personal loans, staying out of consumer debt with automobile loans, high interest loans, and, goodness forbid, your mortgage loan, because that's where you lay your head. Having all this debt is like having an elephant sit on your chest. It's literally crushing people to death. So we got a serious problem. This is a serious problem, and it's happening to many people in America, a third of the country. Now, there are some basic financial principles that we all have to consciously make a decision that we want to live by. Okay? So, one of the first financial decisions that's important to live by is that we need to make a decision to live on less than what we make. Okay? That is probably the number one financial principle that a person needs to live by and to do well with. Living on less than what you make. That alone will put you ahead of probably at least 50% of people. The second financial principle that we have to live by, or is very smart to live by, is that you got to manage your money better. So, in other words, you have to have a plan or a budget, guys. You have to know where every dime that comes into your household goes. Every dime that comes in, and you have to know where every dime that goes out of your household goes when leaving your household. So you got to know every dime that's coming in. You got to know every dime and where you're spending and where it is going out. That's called a budget, guys. And you have to stick to your budget. Two basic financial principles. Live on less than what you make and have a budget. Knowing where your money's going, managing your money. it really, those are two of the most simple principles that you can come by when it comes to how to make sure your money is safeguarded and how you spend your money, as far as not putting yourself in debt and actually having some money, right? So this means when you're on a budget, this means that you have to give up something. This means you have to give up something in the short term to make your budget work. That means giving up making other people wealthy. Remember I talked about earlier how the wealthy are benefiting from the lower class and the middle class doing all the spending? So that means giving up making them wealthy, because people are struggling because they're giving their money out to everybody else. And so if you are struggling, it's because you probably have the lack of ability to delay gratification. And what does that mean for a lot of people? Almost everything in their life is instant gratification. And you cannot build wealth if you cannot get your need for instant gratification under control. You can't do it. You can't be trying to save money and managing your budget when you have a I gotta have it now mentality. It just will not work. It will not work. The third financial principle that you have to live by is that you have to stay out of consumer debt. You have to stay out of consumer debt. How do you stay out of consumer debt? Well, you have to follow number 1 and number 2 of the financial principles, the basic financial principles. Live on less than what you make, and you got to live on a plan or a budget. If you can do those 2 things, guys, you will stay out of consumer debt. Isn't that interesting? Just those 2 things will keep you out of a financial bind and a mountain of consumer debt. I mean, it's not rocket science, guys. It really boils down to it being that simple. So you got to transform your mind. You have to make a conscious decision to transform your mind and your behavior with money. That's what this channel is about, and that's why we try to help each other on this channel. Now, you can't just continue to spend your money to keep up with the Joneses. You heard that expression before. Don't keep up with the Joneses, right? You can't continue to spend your money, keep up with the Joneses, and to make the 1% of the top Americans wealthy in this country, guys. You can't do it. Because if you at some point, if you want to gain wealth and have some sort of stable finances, then you got to stop making them more wealthy. You got to stop making them more wealthy. You have to keep more of that money in your pocket for your household and for your family. And more of that in your family means you're in less debt and less financial debt and in less burdensome loans, consumer debt. Now, the fourth financial principle is, which many people in this article here obviously are not doing, is they have to save and invest. You have to save and invest. Now, the savings part of it is where you put away 3 to 6 months worth of an emergency fund just in case you hit a financial bump in the road, right? Because you may get sick, you may get laid off from your job, and you may not be able to work for a while, right? So you need a nest egg. You need a rainy day fund just to get through that difficult period in your life. And that's important because that will actually prevent you from taking on more consumer debt or using credit cards even more when you don't have the funds to pay for your bills. Okay? So this stuff goes hand in hand. See? So having that emergency fund is key to also giving you a backup and helping you to stay out of consumer debt. Now, I recommend that you do or consider at least 6 months of your expenses. That's important, at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses, because you put the funds somewhere, or at least the amount that adds up to your expenses, in a safe place at a bank separate from all your other accounts. Put it somewhere totally separate from other accounts, where your other accounts where you're not going to even look at it, you're not going to bother, you're not going to even look at it. And that's just your emergency fund. And that will be there to help you when you truly need it in an emergency. That will be part of your stability, part of your base, and it will actually give you some sort of peace of mind and comfort, knowing that if something goes wrong, you do have something to help you sustain your life and your livelihood and your family throughout a hard or rough situation. This stuff is serious, guys. And this is really, really why we're able to help each other to get through this. So that's the savings part of it. Now, the investment part is you got to take a certain amount of money every single month, guys, and put it in assets that will actually work to grow your money and grow your wealth. You actually have to take money that you save, reserves, not your emergency fund, but excess money that you have, and start investing it every single month. Remember, paying yourself first, in order to put it in assets every single month so that it will actually grow and it will actually kind of be an asset for you to grow your wealth and your emergency money, or the money you have. Remember, 30% of Americans are behind in their debt payments, which you don't want to find yourself behind on, which is your credit card loans, student loans, your personal loans, your car loans, your automobile car loans, and your mortgage loans. Yes, some people have to have a mortgage because they don't have the money up front to buy a house. That's understandable. But see, at least your house goes up in value. You can access part of that as an asset if you do have hard times. But at least you're putting your money towards something that's growing in value to you or for you most of the time. This other consumer credit card debt is taking money out of your pocket every month, but it's also not providing any value to you. And it's making whoever you spent the money on even more wealthier. Even more, the wealth that you should be retaining is what you're giving away to them. So you're basically giving them your wealth and your power. That's a bad decision. Many people are behind, as you can see, and in this situation because of poor financial decisions. Right? And they only have themselves to blame. So at this channel, I preach to you guys, we're not going to do that. We're not going to find ourselves in a bad situation because we're making bad or silly decisions that we can avoid and that we can be in control of, especially when it comes to our finances. So tell me what you think about that. Drop me some comments below and let me know what you think about 30% 30% of Americans being behind in their debt payments. I mean, listen to this, guys. There are 350 million Americans in this country, right? I mean, you're talking about 100 million people. 30% is almost 100 million people who are behind on their debt payments in this country. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. 100 million people? I mean, no wonder almost half of the country is struggling. You're not going to be included in that 100 million. You're not going to be the one who is continually struggling because of making certain bad financial decisions. So we're going to work on that together because that's what we do. We want to encourage one another and teach each other how we can make good decisions when it comes to our finances. Now, if you're stopping by at the channel for this channel the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you haven't turned on the notification bell, turn on the notification bell. You'll get alerts when I drop new videos. And while you're at it, please go ahead and smash that like button because it really does help out the channel and I would appreciate it. Remember that here on this channel, we work together to change our behavior with money because we know that this will help us to make wise financial decisions in the future and it will allow us to have a better come up.